Fit to Build Academy teaches homeowners how to plan, manage and complete your dream home build so that you increase your knowledge and manage your project team with a confidence normally reserved for experienced professionals. This podcast is about one thing, building your knowledge and confidence so you can be the expert of your project even when you have never built before. If you want to build your knowledge and confidence and use it to take action, then you're in the right place. All this information is 100% free, so please subscribe and review our podcast. This is Fit to Build Academy. Hey, it's Chris here and welcome to Fit to Build and the third episode of our deep dive series where we explore the home building design and construction process. This deep dive conversation series is based entirely on the Fit to Build Academy Home Building Mastery Program and is designed to give you a sneak peek into what is required of you, the homeowner, when building a home. In my view, you can't just set and forget and hope that the design and build team will deliver exactly what you want. The project needs to be actively managed. That's why businesses actively employ project managers. Something I have done over the past 20 years managing complex projects on behalf of clients. Over those many years as a designer, builder and project manager, I have worked with homeowners and equally businesses spending millions of dollars on projects, and have observed that the successful projects are well planned and resourced, and the failures are often the complete opposite. The one theme that kept recurring with these projects was that the successful homeowners had a very good grasp of the building process and had the right mindset to be able to deal with the issues as they came along. They also realized that they had gaps in knowledge and sought to fill them before making decisions. And conversely, those that failed had not grasped what was required of them through the building process and were ill prepared for the complexities that are required of you as the homeowner when building. The Home Building Mastery Program was born out of a desire to help homeowners make good decisions before they get too deep into the project. To help people improve their knowledge and fully understand the building process, select the right builder, develop the confidence to deal with issues with their builder, and recognize the warning signs to avert costly mistakes. My view is that without this knowledge, homeowners will continue to fail to understand the building process, make expensive mistakes, which creates financial strain and confusion or mistrust of the building team they have chosen. The following deep dive conversation, created with the help of our friends at Google, dives into some more detail than Episode 2, Clarity, Planning, Mindset and Schedule, and discusses the importance of setting a realistic budget when planning a building project. We discuss budgeting for all aspects of the project, from design fees and authority fees to the actual build and finally landscaping. We discuss an example of a cost calculator and what hard and soft costs relate to. Finally, we discuss the importance of a build schedule, stressing that it should cover all aspects of the project, from the initial planning to the final completion. The lesson and discussion also emphasizes the need to plan for delays and to monitor the critical path to ensure the project stays on track. Underlying all of this is that we want you to fully understand the building process, to make informed decisions, and to ensure a successful home building project. So without further delay, let's dive in.
All right, so we're diving into construction projects today, which is exciting, but also kind of scary, right? How do we make sure things go smoothly?
Lots to think about.
So we're looking at 2 lessons from Fit to Build Academy.
Okay.
Setting a real budget, and the schedule is king.
Sounds good.
Our mission today is to give you the tools to create a realistic budget and schedule.
Right.
So you can avoid those common pitfalls.
Yep.
And set yourself up for success.
Exactly. It's all about setting those realistic expectations up front.
I love that. Setting realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Because we've all heard horror stories, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
Projects going way over budget,
Definitely.
taking forever. So let's start with the budget.
Sure.
What makes a construction budget realistic?
Well, a realistic budget is one that's really well thought out.
Okay.
Not just a number you pull out of thin air.
Right.
Or what your buddy down the street told
Right.
Or what your buddy down the street told you he spent.
Yeah, makes sense.
It needs to consider every single cost.
Like what kind of costs?
Well, of course you've got the design fees, permits, the actual construction costs.
Right.
But then there's landscaping, moving, all that stuff.
It all adds up.
It really does.
And speaking of adding up,
Yeah.
I think we've all fallen into that trap of champagne dreams on a beer budget.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's called optimism bias.
Optimism bias.
Yeah, it's super common. We get all excited about the possibilities.
Right.
And forget about the financial realities. Yeah, and that's where things can get tricky.
How so?
Well, if you're not realistic from the get-go,
Yeah.
you might have to scale back your vision later.
Oh, no.
Yeah, when those builder bids come in higher than you expected.
That's gotta be tough.
It can be, and expensive redesigns can really throw a wrench in things.
So how do we avoid that?
Set your budget early.
Okay, how early are we talking?
Seriously, before you even start sketching out ideas,
Wow.
you need to figure out your financial boundaries.
So it all comes down to knowing your limits.
Exactly. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves.
Okay.
How much can you truly afford?
That's a good question.
It is. And it might mean taking a hard look at your finances.
Yeah.
Maybe even creating a detailed budget worksheet.
So you have a crystal clear picture.
Exactly.
Okay, so once we know our limits, how do we actually break down the costs?
I like to think of it in two categories.
Okay.
Soft costs and hard costs.
Soft costs and hard costs.
Yep. Soft costs are everything you need before the construction even starts.
Okay.
Architects, engineers, energy ratings, surveys, all that pre-construction stuff.
Makes sense.
And then hard costs are directly tied to the build itself.
Okay.
The builder's fees, materials, labor subcontractors.
So it's about understanding both of these.
Exactly. To create a really comprehensive budget.
So how do we put actual numbers to these categories?
So there are a few ways.
Fit to Build Academy mentioned educated guess,
Right.
SQM assessment,
Uh-huh.
and elemental pricing.
Yeah, those are good starting points.
Can you break those down for us?
Sure. An educated guess is basically just a starting point.
Okay.
Not the most accurate, but it gives you a ballpark.
Got it.
SQM assessment is a bit more refined.
How so?
You figure out a cost per square meter based on the finishes you want,
Okay.
and then multiply that by the size of your project.
So it's more specific.
It is, but it can still be a bit general.
And then there's elemental pricing.
Right, that's the most detailed method.
Tell me more.
You break the project down into its individual elements,
Like?
foundations, framing, roofing, and so on.
Okay.
And then you get detailed quotes and do your research to figure out the cost for each element.
So it's more work up front,
It is.
but you get a really clear picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it this way.
All right.
Would you
Huh.
or have a clear understanding from the beginning?
I'm definitely picking clarity.
Good choice.
Okay, so let's bring this to life with an example.
Sure.
That $500,000 renovation project from Fit to Build Academy. How does that break down?
Let's see. They allocated 8% for architect fees,
Which comes out to?
$40,000, then another 2% or $10,000 for other consultants,
Mm.
and 1% or $5,000 for permits and inspections.
I'm guessing most of the budget goes to the actual construction.
You bet 70% or $350,000 goes straight to construction costs.
Wow.
But there's more.
Yeah.
You also need to factor in 5% for landscaping,
Right.
0.5% for moving, 3.5% for potential rental costs.
If you have to move out during the renovation.
Exactly. And then a very important 10% contingency for the build.
Why is that so important?
Because things happen, unexpected things. And that buffer can really save you.
From stress and going over budget.
And that buffer can really save you.
From stress and going over budget.
Exactly.
This breakdown is so helpful.
Glad to hear it.
It really shows how all the pieces fit together.
It does.
And it highlights that setting a budget is about so much more than just the big ticket items.
Absolutely. It's about considering every little detail.
And making sure you're prepared for anything.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've tackled the budget.
We have.
Now what about the timeline?
Yes. The schedule?
Fit to Build Academy is very clear.
How so?
The schedule is king, they say.
Mm-hmm.
But how crucial is it, really?
More than you might think.
I'm eager to dive into that next.
Well, let's do it. So time in construction is a big deal.
Yeah, because delays can rarely throw things off.
They can, and not just for you.
What do you mean?
Well, time is money for everyone involved.
Right.
Delays mean higher labor costs, longer loan periods.
Oh, yeah, those interest payments can add up.
They sure can.
Yeah.
And everyone loses precious time.
So planning is crucial.
Absolutely. Just like that saying.
A goal without a plan.
You need a solid plan to make this happen.
And we're talking about the entire project, right?
Yep. from that initial idea to the moment you get the keys.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about the construction phase.
Nope, it's the whole shebang.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah, and it's easy to forget about the pre-construction stuff.
Like the design phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone gets excited about picking out finishes and fixtures.
Oh, yeah. It's the fun part.
It is. But it's also really important for the schedule.
How so?
Well, design changes are super common.
Oh, yeah. You change your mind a million times.
It happens. And even small tweaks can impact the timeline.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's like a domino effect.
So you're saying the pre-construction phase could actually take longer than the build itself?
It happens all the time.
Wow. I would have thought the build would be the longest part.
It seems that way, right?
Yeah.
But it's easy to rush through the design.
Because you're so eager to get started.
Exactly. But taking your time up front can save you so much hassle later.
So once the design is finalized, the builder gives you a construction schedule, right?
Exactly. It's called the Program of Works.
Program of works. Okay.
Yep. And it breaks down the entire process into manageable stages.
So you can see what's happening when.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
You need to understand the critical path.
Critical path, what's that?
It's the sequence of tasks that are the most time sensitive. Any delays on the critical path will directly impact your completion date.
So it's like the backbone of the schedule.
Exactly. If something gets delayed on the critical path, everything gets pushed back.
Oof, that's not good.
Nope. So it's important to identify those critical path items early on.
And try to avoid any delays.
Exactly.
How do we do that?
Well, Fit to Build Academy has some great examples.
Okay.
They break down phases like completion of base stage, completion of frame stage, and completion of lockup.
Okay.
And they highlight some common delays that can happen. For example.
Oh, yeah, that takes time.
It does. You can't rush it.
And it needs to be factored into the schedule.
Absolutely. Inspections are another common cause for delays.
Because you have to wait for the inspector to be available.
Exactly. And that can throw things off.
So it sounds like building in some flexibility is crucial.
It is. You need to have a realistic schedule from the start.
With some buffer time built in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, instead of scheduling a task for 5 days.
Give it 7.
Exactly. That way, if something comes up...
With some wiggle room.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask your builder about their strategies for managing delays.
They've done this before.
They have. They probably have some good tips.
So communication is key.
It is. Regular communication can prevent small issues from becoming big problems.
Makes sense. So to sum up this part of our deep dive.
Sure.
Be prepared for delays.
Yeah.
Allow plenty of time for the pre-build phase.
Yep.
Keep a close eye on those critical path items.
No.
And be flexible.
Exactly. You got it.
That's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's all about setting yourself up for success.
And avoiding those budget blowouts and schedule nightmares.
Exactly.
Now, I gotta say, going into this deep dive, I thought I had a pretty good handle on construction projects.
Yeah.
But this has been a real eye-opener.
It's a lot more complex than people think.
It really is. But you know what?
What's that?
Now that I have a better understanding of how to approach budgeting and scheduling,
Yeah.
I feel more empowered, not overwhelmed.
I love that. That's the goal.
It is. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to something as big as building or renovating a home.
For sure. It's a huge investment.
It is, both financially and emotionally.
So let's recap what we've learned today.
Okay.
When it comes to budgeting, be thorough, be realistic.
Yep.
Factor in every single cost, not just the big ones.
Right. And remember,
Yeah.
that whole champagne taste on a beer budget thing
Oh, yeah.
can lead to some tough decisions down the road.
Totally. So be honest with yourself about what you can afford.
Exactly. And when it comes to the schedule,
Right.
plan for the entire journey.
From start to finish.
Exactly. From that initial idea to getting those keys.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It is. And things will almost always take longer than you expect.
I hate when that happens.
It's inevitable. So
Yeah.
build in some buffer time
Okay.
and pay close attention to those critical path items.
Makes sense. It's like a giant puzzle, isn't it?
It is.
All the pieces have to fit together perfectly. And even a small delay in one area.
Can have a ripple effect.
Exactly.
And just like with a puzzle,
Yeah.
sometimes you need to adjust your approach along the way.
Be flexible.
Exactly.
This has been so helpful.
Glad to hear it.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive.
My pleasure.
I feel so much more prepared to tackle my own project now.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear.
And for everyone listening,
Yeah.
as you embark on your own building journey, Remember what we've talked about today.
Right.
Realistic budgets.
Yep.
Realistic schedules.
Uh-huh.
And think about this.
Okay.
How can you build flexibility into your plans to handle those inevitable surprises?
That's a great question.
Because, let's face it.
What's that?
In construction, there are always surprises.
Always.
Until next time, happy building, everyone.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you would like to work with us to build your dream home or project, please go to fittobuildacademy.com or follow us on Instagram at fittobuildacademy, where we have a link in the bio to book an appointment to chat with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on Fit to Build. Thanks so much for listening, and remember, go out there and build something amazing.